So there's several different kinds of MS too. I mean, some things progress, some people never progress, but the simplest way to say it is that your brain and your nerve system, they don't communicate well together and they kind of attack.
Welcome to the Big Fish Cares podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
Got an exciting guest today at the Big Fish Cares podcast. I've been friends with Kelly Frost for probably...
Careful.
Feels like 10 years. I don't know.
You're going to start aging me already.
I'm aging. I moved to Pittsburgh in 2010. I didn't know anybody. You were one of the first people I feel like I met in like the Pittsburgh scene or community. But anyway, so Kelly's a native of the South Hills in Pittsburgh, graduate from Penn State in the field of industrial and organizational psychology, which is a big deal nowadays.
Yes,
Back then, there was probably nobody even heard of that. Now it's like, that's the up and coming career. That's like Wendy from Billions. Did you ever watch that show, Billions?
No.
Oh, you got to watch Billions.
Okay.
But anyway, she's the founder and CEO of Frost Executive Services, as well as PEAL, which is an acronym, right? What's the acronym for?
Pittsburgh's Elevated and Emerging Leaders.
See, that sounds good. And she's got a new book coming out. Is it out yet?
Not yet.
It's not out yet. So like you're getting the alpha here. Mm-hmm. It's called A Toast to Motherhood. The good, the bad, and the hilarious. We'll talk about that towards the end of the podcast. And she's overcome some things in her life that we want to touch base on. So you'll be wanting to stay tuned to this episode. And let's kind of get into it, Kelly. So you're kind of a Pittsburgh native, right? Like did you grow up in Pittsburgh?
I grew up here, yeah. So originally I'm from Baltimore.
How long did you live in Baltimore?
Not long.
Not long enough to ever say that you're from Baltimore,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I say it very quiet, like I'm from Baltimore.
Why is that?
Because if you tell people that you're not from here, then you're not automatically a Yinzer.
Oh, yeah.
When you're a transplant, it takes years for people to accept you.
So when I tell them I'm a Browns fan, like people don't like it
yeah.
because I'm from Canton, Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, that's bad. It's not good. Yeah.
So what was life like growing up in Pittsburgh? Tell me, because I didn't grow up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical, potholes and, sports, that kind of stuff.
Lots of crazy roads to drive on.
Yeah.
Brothers, sisters?
So I have a brother.
Yeah.
He is younger. And I mean, if you really want to dive right in, I just found out a few years ago that I also have a sister.
Whoa! Just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook is a crazy thing. So
So when you say crazy, so like how did they reach out to you? Like, and all of a sudden they said, I think I might be your sister?
Oh, she knew.
Oh, she knew. You had no idea.
Right, yeah.
Is she older? Mm-hmm. Obviously, right? Because I feel like if she was younger, well, you never know any day. Yeah. You know what? You just never know. So how did that go? Like, tell me, can you share any details on how that went?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is something off of like, I used to watch Phil Donahue when I was like a kid in the in the 90s. And I feel like he was like the guy that really saw that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then now it's Jerry Springer. And like, I don't even know if Jerry Springer's still on the air.
He just passed away.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Cody, I need updated when these pop celebrities of like my past pass away. But wow, all right. So get into it. So someone reached out to you on Facebook, your sister, and said what?
She saw all kind of posts about me. It was like my 40th birthday party, and it was on the Gateway Clipper, total like Yinzer kind of thing, right?
Very Pittsburgh.
Yes, and all of my family was there. So it was all these family photos of my godparents from Baltimore and my family here, my mother, my brother. And she's a spitting image of my mother. I mean, they look like twins. But my mom's name on Facebook wasn't what her name was, her given name. So my mom's from Missouri, my sister's from Missouri. And
so this is your mom's daughter, not your dad's daughter. So most of the time it's
that's
usually
the twist.
So most of the time when a story like this, it's usually dad, right? Because like dad can kind of like hide the fact that like moms usually have a harder time to hide that, right?
Yeah, plot twist, yeah.
So what happened?
So, I mean, when she was a teenager, she had a kid. And back then, it was like, hey, you're going off somewhere and having a baby and coming back without one. And that's what happened.
And she basically just gave the baby up for adoption and then...
So all the adoption, everything is all closed in that state. But they had just opened up all the everything they have. So she got to see her birth certificate and who her mother was and started looking for it. And she was actually going to be on a TV show to look for her. And then she found me on Facebook, and then that all kind of snowballed into finding my mother, and she reached out to her, they went back and forth a little bit. My mom decided, yes, I would like to meet you.
Aw.
And that's how
I'm sure that had to be a tough decision when that happened to your mom back in those days. Like, that had to be, 50 years ago?
Yeah, I mean,
right?
A little more, but yeah.
A little bit more, right? And so, like, that had to be, like, back in those days, I don't even know what it was like back then. But, I mean, I've read, things, I've seen movies, and, like, when that happens, it's like kind of hush hush, it's 1 year, and like you just kind of get through it, and then like, oh, like what happened? Nobody knows, and then here we are 50 years later. And now let me ask you this question: Did your dad know, or was he finding out for the first time?
He knew.
So he so mom and dad at least talked to them. They said it's not a good idea to tell the kids because it's kind of like it's a tough situation. It's probably there's a little shame, a little embarrassment, maybe like not know what to do, don't want to confuse you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, nowadays something happens, you're 16, it's not something that you hide.
Well, no, we have a lot more resources now.
Right.
I feel like we're a lot more open. We have more resources. There's more there's more people to help you with things like this. Wow. So when you found out, like, was it just through like a DM? Like, was it like...
No, my mom, called us and sat us down and said, listen, this is what's going on. I won't reach out to her if you guys tell me that you're not comfortable with it and it's going to change things. And my brother and I both just said, hey, this is a person. If she didn't do anything wrong, it's not her fault. Yeah, I mean... pull a seat to the table. Let's meet her. So my parents, she lives in Georgia. So my parents went down to Georgia and then met her for the first time, and our niece. And it's so funny because my niece is very much like me.
Wow.
And and my sister, like I said, is like a twin of my mother's. Like we put pictures next to each other. I mean, there's no denying her.
Wow, that's so cool. So when you first heard about it, did you call your brother and be like what's going on?
What the hell?
Like what's going on? What was like the vibe like when your mom first told you? Like were you mad at your mom? Were you like, whoa, this is weird? Like were you just because that's gotta, I mean, that is like it's like a bomb. I mean, that's a good, it's almost like a shock, but it's like not a terrible shock, but it's still a shock, right? Because you got kids, right? Now you have to figure out like, all right, how are we going to explain all this? But like today, I feel like it's easier to explain that type of stuff.
Yeah. It was acceptance right from the get.
Good.
I mean, it's more like it wasn't my story.
Yeah.
It was my mom's story, and it was her option to tell it when she wanted to. And and when my sister came along, like I said, it wasn't her fault at all. And she did nothing wrong. And, life is life, and everybody has something that they've gone through, and, there's no negativity around it. And, we just opened our arms and brought the family in. And
that's so sweet. I'm sure your mom's parents probably were the ones that I'm assuming probably had more choice in that matter, right? Influence.
I really don't know.
Influence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, because if she was young, I mean, like, it's when you're a young woman, I would assume, right? Like, that's got to be scary, if you get pregnant when you're 16, 17, Wow. Well, you have a sister. So what's that relationship going to look like now to the future? Like, have you thought about that?
Well, I mean, you kind of live your whole life thinking you're the oldest sibling.
Yeah.
And now I'm the middle sibling.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's the only thing that's really changed because she lives in Georgia.
Yeah.
So she's not here, so we don't, really see her much.
Yeah.
So it's like holidays kind of thing. And
how long ago did that happen?
just a couple years.
Okay. So like, what is like a Christmas? Like, I don't know. Like, do you see each other once a year?
Pretty
like,
much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost like having like a cousin or somebody that's out of state that you kind of just like see every once in a while, stay in touch with. We're friends on Facebook. They can see pictures of the kids and stuff like that.
Yeah. But then, that kind of opened up a can of worms for me. And I was like, wow, let's do that whole like spit in a tube kind of thing and see what else shakes out.
Oh,
right?
What else shaked out?
Well, I mean, like my whole life, my parents, or at least my mother said, oh, you're Native American, blah, blah, blah. Not a stitch, nothing. And it all came back. I was like, oh, so I'm Italian. Who knew? I was never told that. And, so much came back.
So why did she think she was Native American? Like, so someone told her she was Native American? So like these things get passed down, these little stories get passed down because maybe it was cool to be a Native American, or maybe somebody wanted to have that, like, yeah.
That's why you tan so well. I was like, oh, okay.
And then somebody took that for serious. They could have been joking one day. And then somebody probably like, oh, I'm part Native American. And then like 4 generations later, like you just keep telling everybody you're Native American.
Yeah.
So interesting. So how's it feel to be Italian?
I mean,
You're a Dago.
Now I love like certain foods. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah. But I mean, it's so funny because you never know where certain stories come from, legacies, but some legacies maybe not so true. So
It's like
finding out for yourself.
It's like the game of telephone.
Yeah. Digging that story up, Sometimes you just got to find out for yourself.
Well, I mean, me and you both met in the marketing world, and we're both networkers. So we like good stories, and we like we like people, right? We're very connected, and it's almost like you could go down, like you can be a journalist, and like you could just like start to do the investigative journalism on Kelly Frost first,
Right?
and then you can help other people.
Yeah. But the scariest words are?
What?
Is when I get these emails and it's like, you have 24 new DNA relatives. And I'm like, oh no.
What does that mean? Tell me. I don't know. I've never done this before.
So that means
I might have to do it. Can we get an affiliate deal with, what is it? What's the company called?
23andMe.
23andMe. Yeah. All right.
So then I started getting all these emails, and it was other people that had done the same thing that I did. So then they're in your family tree, right?
And do they show like the family tree? So this DNA test can really show like if all my family, they'd be able to say, oh yeah, that's a full sister. Like
Percentage. They show percentage of how they're related to you.
and they can show cousins, and can they show aunts and uncles, or like does it like actually break it up by like the name of the relative? Like,
Yep.
like,
If
wow.
all those people are on there, they do. So I just found out that my mother's brother, whom I think I may have met once, maybe, also has a daughter. Nobody ever knew. She said she never even met her father ever. And I was like, oh, okay. So now I have like a total cousin who lives in Boston. She's like, let's meet.
Can we all get our parents to do this just to make sure that like they are who they say they are?
I was a little nervous after.
I'm gonna go over to Christmas dinner and like, what do you have to do? Spit in a cup, or like how do you do
It
it?
was like a little tube, and you just spit in the tube.
you just spit
send
it
in. Yeah.
Hey mom, dad, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and just cough in here real quick or spit something in here. I just want to make sure that
But I'm telling you, like, you have to be like ready for the results.
Well,
So,
yeah. All right. So, like, all right, if somebody's out there right now thinking about this, right? Because right now, everyone's thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, if this could happen to Kelly, like, this could happen to me, because you just don't ever really know, right? Because what would you say to someone? How can they prepare to get ready if they're scared or if they're fearful? Because most humans, I feel like, walk around with a little fear and they're scared. Most people.
I mean, you've heard all those stories about people that were raised by two people, and then one day they get sat down and say, by the way, you were adopted. And then that opens up a can of worms. I mean, if you like worms, spit in a tube. If you're nervous about it, maybe not for you.
But if you're nervous about it, don't you think you're going to continue to like let it just stir in your head and like?
Not everybody's like that.
No?
Some people can just accept what they
can
have and move
compartmentalize
on.
it and just like put it over a box.
Like,
and
I'm
kinda,
cool with what I have. I don't want to like, shake anything up. But other people,
They like the rush.
curious.
It's like a rush, right? It's like a little adrenaline. Wow.
I mean, some people like to jump out of planes. Other people don't like to get into them in the first place.
So did you have any, so what was that like between you and your parents then? Like, I don't know, like, do you have other questions for them? Because like, hey, if you're holding that back, like what else are you holding back?
No, I don't think I have any more questions.
Okay. Because I would. I'd be like, Mom and Dad, seriously, if you didn't tell me this, you probably also left out something else. Is there anything else that I need to know about before I go on for the next 50 years of my life?
Right. You know what? I'm pretty content with how my life is right now. I don't need to know anything else.
All right, cool. Cool. So what was life like after high school? Like, tell me about between high school and like the time that I met you. Because like, I feel like I met you like, 10 years ago. You were probably in your late 30s. And so like, tell me about that gap of like college and like, how'd you end up, after you left the home? And
I think that everybody during that stage of their life is trying to figure out who they are. So I actually was one of the younger ones in my high school class. So I was actually 17 when I graduated.
okay, when did you turn 18? So if you graduated
Not
in
till
like
the fall.
May, so you're like, okay, so you're kind of like me. I have a September 1st birthday. I graduated when I was 17, and then I had 3 months where I couldn't even buy a pack of cigarettes, right? But like I was like,
Are you a Virgo?
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
What is that? See, we're not. That's a whole nother podcast. We're not going to go there because I don't know anything about the zodiac signs other than I know the names of them.
Yeah. So
It's hard to group everybody that was born in September into a category.
Sure.
That feels weird.
Yeah. So I'm September 13th.
All right.
So, yes.
I think it goes all the way to the 22nd, right?
I don't
Or
know.
something like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're similar as far as we graduated at 17. So what was that like? So like you graduated, you know, you go to graduation parties probably, you know, what did you want here? Who was Kelly Frost at 17 and what did you want to be when you grew up and did you know who you even were?
No, no one does.
I know, but like I want to know who you thought you were back then.
I don't know. I don't think I really knew at all who I was. So I was always told, you know, get a job in business. And I was really good with numbers. So I always, you know, had classes in accounting. And my dad went to IUP and he said, that's where you're applying to college. So that's where I applied. And I went.
The old follow in my footsteps.
Yeah, like you're following in my footsteps.
Yeah.
Like this is the only place you're going to apply. So I did. And what he didn't know was that there was 3 campuses. And I applied for Punxsutawney. Because I wanted to get as far away from Pittsburgh as I possibly could. I just wanted a fresh start somewhere else, do something else.
You want to be like the groundhog.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's an experience all on its own. That's
Yeah.
another podcast.
That was a great movie, by the way, Groundhog Day. That's the only thing I know about Punxsutawney. Punxsutawney Phil.
There's not
Cody, you
much
know about
more.
Punxsutawney Phil? Yeah.
Yeah. There's not much more than Groundhog's Day.
That's the best. That's one of my favorite movies.
That's cool.
All right, so you went to Punxsutawney. But you didn't really have a choice. You went to IUP, just to Punxsutawney. Now, when you told them you were going to Punxsutawney, did that throw a wrench in anything?
Well, they didn't really know until like the acceptance came and all that. And they were like, wait a minute. So, yeah. So I graduated and they were kind of like, okay, so this is what you're doing. And, you know, our job now is done as parents. We got you through high school. You got accepted to college. And I asked for a ride to my friend's house. And they were kind of like, and here you go. And it was like,
What do you mean, here you go?
right, yeah.
What you mean before you started college, like that summer? You're
Yeah, like a week after graduation.
and you didn't have a car? Mm-mm. And like, did you have a license yet?
Yes.
Okay, so you were just borrowing their car?
No. They drove me over to my friend's
No,
house.
I know, but like you had a license though, but you didn't have a car.
Right,
So did you get to borrow their car during high school and stuff? Or like, did you drive at all?
Occasionally, yeah.
All right, so you said you wanted to go to a friend's house just to what, hang out, like spend the night, like, you know, whatever, just
to
do
hang
girl
out.
things, right? And then what happened?
They were like, so we did our job. You're through high school. You got into college. It's time to sink or swim. Like that was their.
And your brother was still at home? Because how much younger is
He
he?
was like 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then but like,
That was it.
no, come on. Tell me, like, there had to be like no transition plan. Like, they're gonna help you like move into college? You got a dorm at college?
Yeah. So they
Were
actually.
were they paying for college?
The first semester.
Okay.
Yeah. They were putting away savings bonds.
Okay.
As they did back
savings
then.
bonds, yeah.
Right. That was the
The
big
old
thing.
famous
then.
savings bonds. They can
Yes.
triple every 7 years, my grandma used to tell me. Not anymore, they don't triple.
Yeah. So there was, here's your savings bonds. You can use it for college or your wedding. Because I was female and that's all the options that I had. Right. So I used it for my first semester of IUP and they were like, so here you go. And they made me sign emancipation papers.
What is that?
So that they're not responsible.
I feel like I've heard that in slavery. Like is that like the same thing where you're free?
Basically. So,
Oh, because you were 17 still.
Yeah.
Is this for real? Wow, that's so interesting. They really wanted you to be independent.
They really wanted to not be in charge of me. So if I did something wrong.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know.
Still to this day, you can't really even. Can you assume based on everything you know about your parents and everything you know about you? Like, were you did you get in trouble a lot as a kid? Like you were just, no?
I was a typical teenager.
Okay. I'm just curious because like it seems like that's. And there was no planning ahead of time for that. It wasn't like they told you, hey, when you graduate, like you got to go on your own. There was no plan. It was just like they just told you one day and you're like, then what did you do though?
So I went into my friend's house and their parents were amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was just like, so this just happened. And I was in tears. And they said, don't worry, honey, you can stay here with us. And I mean, the most amazing people. And I stayed there all summer.
Wow.
And at the end of the summer, my parents called and said, hey, you know what? We're going to come pick you up and we will drive you to college. And that's how they made sure that I started.
Yeah.
And they dropped me off and that was it.
So what'd you do in college? Like, I'm sure that's weighing on your head, right? Like even when you're in Punxsutawney, right? Like, and you're starting this new life and you're trying to acclimate, I don't even know. Like, do you remember how much money was even in your bank account?
I didn't have a bank account.
So like, how did you like do laundry? Like, how did you get money?
I typed papers for people.
On a typewriter, probably, right?
There was computers.
Oh, was there a computer? Yeah, you're in the mid
Yeah,
90s.
thanks, I'm not that old.
Hey, man. Right before the show, she told me she was 47, and I never thought Kelly was like 47. I always thought she was at least my age or a little bit younger. So, So I'm thinking like, yeah, so you graduated in what, 93, 94? 94. So you would type people's papers in college.
I just hustled. I was like, whatever I needed to do to have extra money is what I did.
And then you just figured it out.
Yeah, so when I got there, I didn't know anybody on campus. Like, nobody was from my high school. Like, I didn't really...
How many people in your... Do you got a dorm? Like, how many people in your dorm?
I don't even know.
Like, how many people in your, like, little...
It was small.
Did you, like, bunk with people and, like...
So there was a mix-up. And so the bottom floor had, like, Jack and Jill bathrooms.
Yeah.
And upstairs, it was communal.
Okay.
So I ended up with a communal. And they're supposed to match you up with somebody who was kind of like you. You had to fill the survey. They did not match me with somebody who was like me. They matched me with somebody who, like, I don't think ever saw the sun. Like, her name was Laura. I think she came straight from a farm. Like, I showed up with, like, a case of beer.
Pittsburgher. Icy light.
She was like, you can't have that in here. I was like, oh, we'll hide it. We're cool. We'll be all right. And she was like, I don't think that's a great idea. And I was like, oh, no. Within a week, she was like, I have to find another roommate because someone had like brought me into the dorm room after a party. She had moved furniture around.
You were the bad girl, weren't you?
I mean, I just had a good time.
Yeah, you're a Pittsburgher.
Everybody was like that
gotcha.
except for my roommate.
Gotcha.
And they came in and kind of, they were like, where's your bed? And I was like, it's the first bed as soon as you walk in. So
maybe you needed to be roommates with her.
Well, I don't know. They threw me on top of her bed and she was in bed and she was like, I'm out of here. Yeah.
And so you're going through college. Like, what was the relationship like? Did you ever get to go visit your parents or
no.
It was just so like, did you even have to talk did you talk to them or you just like done?
Yeah, we were good. Like, so my whole thing was like, listen, like I'm free. I'm at college. I'm just going to say yes to everything.
Cool.
So like I was in ROTC. And I ran for student government president, won.
Wow.
I mean, and I didn't know anybody.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, so the lesson I think that I'm taking away from it is you got the independence and you like took it to another level.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably made you who you are today because you're a really strong woman. And I'm like, I was always like wondering, like, man, she's like a go-getter. Like, where did that come from? Whoa, somebody gives you a little push, and then next thing you know, like, boom, here you are.
I mean, you either sink or swim, so I swam.
And that's awesome.
You know, so yeah, I mean, you do what you got to do.
Yeah. And so what would you tell to like, young girls out there that might be in a similar situation, to like, what to do? Like, cause I feel like the society that we have is a little softer, I feel like today, and I think that like there's the lack of decision. And so a lot of people like hang out in this indecision mode, right? And so what would you tell someone, a young female or something that's like needs to make a decision to like either go or completely retreat, like one of the two, right? Like hanging out in the middle sometimes isn't the best, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't retreat. You'll never win a war retreating. I mean, you got to just keep going forward. Either find somebody to help you, grab a team, figure it out, learn something, but you got to keep going forward. And it's not like I went there, everything was great. The rest of my life was perfect. Yeah,
I heard you started to follow the Grateful Dead around.
I kind
So
of did.
tell me about what's it like to be a Grateful Dead groupie, and how'd you get into that?
So in college, you meet a lot of interesting folks, right?
Yeah.
So I met a lot of people that really were into the Grateful Dead, and I didn't know the Grateful Dead in high school. I mean, I liked Floyd and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they were like, "Oh yeah, this is a great band." So in June, when school was over, kind of went back to Pittsburgh. There was a Floyd show, went to that, and next thing I know, they're like, hey, let's go to the next show. And literally, when they came to pick me up, they picked me up in an orange Volkswagen bus. So cool. And they were all in tie-dye. I mean, it was like a tribe. And they're like, let's just keep going. And I'm like, how do you say no to that?
Yeah.
I didn't have
It reminds
a job.
me of that scene from Forrest Gump when Jenny like is out to like in Washington, D.C. with all the hippies, right? And then she just like goes back to California.
I mean, I had no responsibilities. I mean, how often in your life does that actually happen? Not often.
No, I wish we could go back.
So we just started going. So, I mean, literally we're in the back of the bus and we're traveling and we're making bracelets and necklaces, and every show, that's what you did. I mean, you kind of opened it up. You were a vendor and you're selling what you're selling to get gas money. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was an adventure.
That's cool. How long did you do that for?
Oh, wow.
How did you get out of that? Like, how do you like just decide, oh, it's time to go back to society and like, live a life on purpose?
The tour actually ended. The last show was in Chicago.
So Jerry Garcia decided, was he around?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
he was
the
around,
last
right?
show was
Jerry
in
Garcia,
Chicago.
right? See, I don't even know the Grateful Dead. I just know the Ben and Jerry's ice cream, Cherry Garcia.
Yeah.
But then I also know that I Will Survive. Is that the song?
Kind of.
I don't know. See, I'm bad at singing. I shouldn't sing. Cut that out. No, I'm just kidding.
So the tour actually ended, and then that was their last tour because Jerry passed in August.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that he died, but like I wasn't sure, like,
Yeah.
Did we ever find out what he died from?
I'm not going to speculate.
Yeah, no.
I think it was like a heart attack, but
Okay. Probably from hanging out on the road too long, like all the rock stars do.
yeah. But I mean, so I got to see like the last tour of the Dead.
And what year was that?
95.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
You probably have do you have pictures?
A few.
Did you keep, because back then we didn't have phones. So like, I don't know like where all that stuff would be.
They keep
but
surfacing. And I'm like, please don't put that on Facebook.
why not? Listen, you have to now. Now you're free. You can
I
own
will
it.
tell you there are a few on my Facebook. So I mean, if you're a digger, you can find them. But yeah.
Well, that's cool. So what'd you do like after like you decided to like, come back and hang out with us regular people?
Everybody's regular.
No, I know. I'm just messing with you.
I think I just came back and, just started to learn how to bartend.
That's cool.
You got to make a living somehow.
That's a cool job. That teaches you a lot of skills.
Yeah,
Right. There's a lot of sales and marketing skills in bartending, right?
Those are some people skills.
And then operational skills, right? To keep everything going, right? Because, you're multitasking, you're doing different things. I mean, I watch some of those bartenders. And I'm like, man, like they could be a great project manager at my construction company. Like dealing with all those problems and all those people and like fast paced, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a cool job to have, I bet.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just a matter of just finding a place, bartending, making it work, and then figuring out, next steps.
When did you meet Mr. Frost?
Mr. Frost.
Because I know Mr. Frost from the country club, and I know that you guys have kids. So like, and how long has that been?
I've actually known him for probably like 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I think we met in a restaurant.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. He's a good dude. It's so funny too, like how I met you guys in different ways. Because he's the what's his title at the South Hills Country Club?
Food and beverage director.
Yeah, man. Like, and he is he just does it all. I mean, he goes in there, his service. Like both of you guys have like this level of service about you, and like I don't know. Like I think it's really admirable. So that's awesome.
You gotta take care of people, right?
Yeah,
You know what that's like.
Yeah. But it's just cool to see like two people kind of have different types of role, like different types of jobs. Like you're not in food and beverage anymore, but he still is. But it's still the people business, right? You're still in connecting with people, right? And and at the country club, man, you're dealing with a lot of personalities. A lot of people are picky, right? They're like, they think that their crap don't stink, and he's got to be able to keep it all going. And he does such a flawless job at it. And I watch you out in the community doing all the cool stuff that you're doing. But there's one other thing that I want to talk to you about is that you found out in 2017 that you had MS. I don't know much about MS, so tell me about like how you found out that you had MS and like what is MS?
So I was working for a magazine and I was going to meet the printer. So we were looking around different printers and you do tours of the printing house, right? And I was getting ready in the morning and I was putting on my makeup and I couldn't see out of my left eye. And I was like, all right, well, show must go on. I got to get to this appointment. So I didn't think much about it, but as the day progressed, it kept getting worse and worse. So I called my eye doctor on the way. And they said, come in, let's take a look. So after my appointment, I went to an eye specialist and they ran tests for about 2 or 3 hours. Now I had Mr. Frost come and come with me because, it happens when you go to the eye doctor, they put all kind of drops in your eyes and you're blown out and you can't see anything.
Yeah.
So they kept having all these doctors come in. This is so-and-so, he's going to look at this. This is so-and-so.
At the eye doctor?
Yeah.
I didn't even think are they even real doctors?
It's an ophthalmologist.
Oh, so this was like the higher level than the guy that you just go see for glasses.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
What do I know?
Well, I'm teaching you.
All right, good.
So there was probably 6 different doctors that I saw that day.
Wow, that'd be scary.
Yeah.
Were they telling you anything?
All they kept saying is, well, your eyes are really healthy. Your eyes are really healthy. So at the very end of the visit, they came in and they said, we're going to have to refer you out because we think that either you have a brain tumor or you had a brain aneurysm. And I'm like, wait, hang on. Because when they start talking to you about that kind of stuff, you're thinking, oh, so I'm dying? I mean,
Yeah, you don't know what that even means.
And I look over at David and he's just white as a ghost. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, who are you referring me to? And they said, we're referring you out to this specialist and they will hear, we already sent all your stuff over. You should hear from them within 24 hours. If it's really bad, you will have an appointment on Wednesday because they're booked out 6 to 12 months right now. If it's not so bad, you won't even hear from a phone call for months. We're like, all right. So we leave there and honestly, I couldn't see anything because my eyes were so blown out.
Both.
Yeah. So we're walking, and David was so in shock that like he's just walking off, and I'm like,
Hey, where's my cane? Like I need to hold your elbow, right? Like it's like the blind person, right? Like that's what they do. You got to hold an elbow. You got to have a stick.
Yep.
Like wow.
And they had these big glasses.
He's not
on
trained
you.
yet. I mean, this has just happened.
Right.
Poor
so
guy.
We get in the elevator. The elevator goes down. It opens up. He starts walking off, and they know that their patients leave like that. So there's a gentleman at the door that helps escort people to wherever they're going. David just walks out the door to the car, and the guy's like, "Sir, you have to help your wife. She can't see." David goes back in and helps me in the car, and he literally got in the car and went to work because he was so in shock. He probably
didn't know what to do.
Right.
Us guys, like when we go back to what we know to do. Like,
right, I'm going to work.
Yeah, we just couldn't go back to work.
So I called my girlfriends. Of course, all my girlfriends come over and they're like, "All right, we got this."
Of course.
So, long story short, I did get the phone call and they were like, yeah, you need to come in. So, it's a lot of testing that they have to do before they can diagnose you with something like MS. So it's blood tests, it's spinal taps.
But you found out you didn't have a brain aneurysm.
Right. Yeah. No brain aneurysm, but.
So how many months from the time that you went to that eye doctor to the time that they told you had MS, how many months was that?
It was probably about 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 months. I just had Samantha in from 412 Thrive and she was telling me about her breast cancer journey and it was like this month and she went and it was like over like a 4-month period and then stuff progresses. So this health stuff I think is really important to talk about because there's people out there that sometimes struggle with this stuff or they feel like they have something but they don't go get checked, right? So when they told you had MS, did you even know what MS was? I mean, I think we've all heard of like MS, but like I feel like we heard all kinds of stuff like ALS, MS,
Right.
All this stuff. So like what is MS? It's multiple sclerosis, right?
Correct.
But
yeah.
what does that mean?
So there's several different kinds of MS too. I mean, some things progress, some people never progress, but the simplest way to say it is that your brain and your nerve system, they don't communicate well together and they kind of attack. So, there's a certain sheath that goes over your nerve system. So it's attacking your nerves all the time. So
what does that do?
It's, they call it a snowflake disease because everybody's completely different. So, my MS does different things to me than someone else's. So, the symptoms that I have are totally different. And the fun thing about that is that it morphs. So the symptoms that I have from year 1 to year 5 could be totally different from 5 to 10.
So would you be willing to share like any type of things that happen like to you? Like, cause I have no concept of like what you're talking about. Like, like what kind of things happen?
So I say walls jump out at me because I have horrible balance sometimes.
Okay.
And I'll just be walking and lose my balance and walk into a wall. I get bruises all the time and, someone will be like, oh my God, what happened to you?
You fall into a wall. You can see the wall though, right? Like you just.
So oftentimes my vision is impaired.
Okay. Do you feel it coming?
No.
Like, does it just happen instantly? So it's like 1 minute you can be fine, and then the next minute something just triggers, and then the next minute you're like, oh crap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not blind, but like my left-hand side, so there's swelling, so I have optic neuritis is what it's called.
But you can feel it coming up. You can, but when it's happening, you know it's happening, right?
Yeah,
like
now I do.
You have the mental capacity to be like, okay, this is my MS kicking in.
For the most part, I do, but then you have brain fog, which means that it's just you just feel like, I ever feel really.
It's almost
stupid
like you're
today.
used to it. Like, do you get used to it?
Sometimes.
Like to where like then you're not as aware that like you could be off.
Yes, and that's really what it is you kind of just feel off. You feel like not yourself. You don't feel as sharp. And then you kind of lose some of your confidence sometimes because you feel like, hey, I'm in a room full of like I'm giving a keynote to 500 people, and here's my notes. Let's hope my speech doesn't go today.
Okay.
So I actually just addressed this at one of my luncheons that I had because after the luncheon, I said to a couple of people, I'm like, I know it was off today. Like I didn't feel like myself. I feel like I wasn't on point. And they're like, oh no, you were good. And then afterwards, a few people were like, "Hey, are you okay?"
Oh yeah, they're your real close friends. Right?
Yeah,
The ones that you
yeah.
know can be real with you, right?
Yes, and they're like, "You seem to call off today." And I was like, "Damn it, I knew it."
Well, that's the thing. Like, if people don't know, and people are always trying to be so nice and kind now, and it's like we went from a society where like we were like super mean, like when we were kids, and then now like everyone's trying to be so nice that like no one gives you like real, actual good feedback.
Yeah. And I always say, I'm like, "You're not helping me by like blowing smoke and telling me you're wonderful." I'm like, "Tell me I sucked and tell me why I sucked."
But what can you do anything about it though? Like that's the other thing. Like so, like all right, cool. Hey, you're off today. Again, I don't think you are, but I mean, but what if you work? Like, is there anything that you can do to like get yourself back on? Like, do they have drugs that you can take or medicine that you can take to like get better?
Oh, I take a lot of drugs.
Just to kind of maintain
The prescription
it.
kind.
Right, just to kind of maintain it though, right?
I mean, you kind of figure out tips and tricks for yourself.
Is there holistic things you can do, like breathing exercises, meditation? I don't know. Like I'm just throwing stuff out there.
So I have a hard time meditating. I can't sit still.
Well, that's just because that's a different issue, though.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried all that, and I'm like, not for me.
I got you.
I sit there and I'm like, my brain just goes.
I said the same thing, and then I did it, and it really works. But some people it takes longer to get to that place.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
And you also have to have some people that kind of like don't want to help you get to that place. But yeah, I will tell you that from my own, because I grew up with ADHD, I still have it, but I now can like just go to a meditation, and a lot of times in a meditation, like halfway through, like I go so deep I fall asleep, but that's not good either. You're supposed to be able to like be able to control yourself into a state, right? And so I'm still experimenting. So follow me for more tips on how that works out over the next 10 years.
Will do.
So like, what else can you do for this MS? Like, is there anything out there that like any tips or tricks that like, and it's all custom for the person, you think? So is there what famous people have had MS?
There's a lot actually. So what's her name from The Sopranos, the daughter?
Meadow?
Yeah.
Meadow Soprano. What was her name, Cody? I can't remember her name.
Yeah, so you put me on the spot. And then the most famous was just, remember Cruel Intentions? The movie?
Yeah.
Not Michelle Gellar, the other one.
I mean, I don't remember like you do. I feel like that's a chick movie. I feel like a lot of girls. I mean, it was a good movie, but like it was the girls were the main characters. She was just on
Dancing with
right?
the Stars because it was a really big deal.
Was there a telethon? Was that guy the telethon guy that have MS or not? Was there a telethon guy that we watched when we were growing up like that was about multiple sclerosis? They would always do fundraisers.
No, I don't believe
that's not MS?
I know who you're thinking of, but I don't think that's
not. All right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Montel Williams has it.
Oh, okay. I actually know his daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of. But Jack Osborne has it.
So you can live. So you can. Does it affect your quality? I know it affects your quality of life a little bit, but does it affect your longevity of life? So what is what do the doctors say to you? Like, what do you have to do? Like,
I mean, you just have to keep living. You just have to not fall into that depression, which is tough for a lot of people.
Does that make it worse, you think? Like, do you have other people that you know that you guys have community support? Like, is there groups and stuff like that? Oh, you would know because I know you're a networker. So, like, what's out there in the Pittsburgh area for, like, MS groups or anything like that?
So there is actually a local MS society group that's here. I mean, there is a whole, we just had them on our networking. They came and spoke. There's a walk that's here. And I mean, there's tons of support in Pittsburgh. So
what's the single biggest challenge that you've had to deal with since finding out that you had MS? Like, what's actually happened to you that like really was pretty dramatic that held you back? Like, I don't know, like that you could share that you then were able to like kind of figure out how to overcome it.
Most people complain about depression and fatigue. Those are the two biggest things that almost all people with MS suffer with. So when you wake up in the morning and you're exhausted to the point that you can't get out of bed, I mean, that's kind of
How
tough.
long did you ever go for a stretch where like that happened for multiple days? Like what was the longest stretch that you just like said, I'm just laying in bed?
I will say when I got COVID, I was almost hospitalized because of that. I mean, I had to have an infusion for that. And they kept saying, you're going to have to go to the hospital. And I kept saying, I'm not going to the hospital because I was so afraid I wouldn't come back out or that I was taking a bed from someone else.
Yeah.
But I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't move. And that was kind of scary.
Yeah.
So, but, I just kept moving, just, as much as I possibly could. And you just gotta, that's your motto for life though.
Yeah.
You just got to keep trying to get up as much as you can. Just keep moving forward. And
I'm sure your kids helped you. I'm sure Mr. Frost helped you. Like,
sure.
It's probably like, it's got to be like a team sport, right? Now, I know you're pretty vocal about this stuff, a lot more than probably average people are, right? Just because of your personality. But like, do you think it's helpful, like, just to tell people that's what you have, so then that way they can help you or be supportive, or like even doing a keynote, right? Like, you want to know, like, hey, like, often, like, is there anything, like, for instance, like, let's just say you were getting ready to come on this podcast and you knew that you were off. Is there anything that like someone like me could like do to help you like feel more supported?
Probably not.
Okay.
But I will say that I kind of had that imposter syndrome for a long time with my MS, because I didn't want people to know that I had it, because it's always that I've always felt like a strong person. And when I did start...
You are a strong person.
Thank you. But when I would tell people that I have MS, it was that whole like, oh, and I'd get
they
that...
must like feel sorry for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get the head tilt,
Yeah,
and I didn't want the pity. I didn't want people to feel bad. I didn't want people to feel less than. So I kind of hid it for a long time because I didn't want to feel like that. But then I started to really realize that if I'm hiding my story, then other people would hide their stories. But if I came out and said, yeah, I have MS, this is what I have, this is what I struggle with, but I struggle, but I get through it.
Yeah.
So if there's something that you're struggling with, because let's be honest, everybody has something.
Yeah.
Like
multiple things.
Right.
Most of us have lots of things, actually, if we really want to peel back the layers.
Right. I like that, peel back.
Peel.
So, but I said, we all have our thing, we have off days, but you get through those days. And this is, here's your support system. If I can help you, let me know. Let me know what there is that you need help with, or to connect you with someone. And at the last luncheon I had, I was a little off, but I think one of the reasons too was because I had the MS Society there, and I had other people with MS there, and I felt like I needed to kind of retract myself from that.
Because you want to be too strong, because then they can like almost like feel like they yeah. I get what you're saying, because they're probably looking at you like,
Yeah, and
I don't want to be that much of a go-getter like Kelly, and like she's making me feel bad because like she's going fast and I'm just over here all depressed in my feels, right? Like,
well, I wanted it to be about them too.
Yeah,
I
of
never
course.
wanted it to be about me.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like retreated a bit, and then you kind of feel like a phony when you do that.
So do you think? Do you know who Joe Dispenza is? Oh wow, you should listen to some Joe Dispenza. I don't know if he could help you with your MS, but he's all about like your mental, like that you could actually like repair cells in your brain if you focus hard enough on like keep moving forward, right, and keep transforming, and right, like that can actually like help you. Like you probably will live longer than the average person that has MS, because you are going to get up every day and just go out and give it 100%. Where there's going to be some people that just fall victim to their own surroundings, and not probably because they don't know how, but because they probably don't have the support that they need and like the motivation. A lot of why you're motivated, a lot of it comes from that story that I heard earlier in the podcast where your parents said, see you, Kelly. And that's probably the best thing that ever happened to you.
You know what? When I look back,
it's happening for you, not to you. Like when it happened, you probably felt bad. Oh man, this is embarrassing. Oh, my friend's mom's got to know, like, I don't have cool parents. And like, but now, like, and I'm sure they didn't do that on purpose, but again, the universe like always has a way of like that was on purpose. I mean, that happened for you. And now you're such a strong person. That's going to help you get through MS. And now it's going to help you lead other people that are struggling with MS, right? So they can get up and go to work or live a life of happiness, be able to raise their kids. Is MS something that just comes on like out of the blue, or like, do you always have it and you just don't know that you have it until a certain age? Or like, give me a little bit of background on how MS is formed.
That can be both, actually. So a lot of people aren't diagnosed, or it gets worse, or something triggers it and it can come on. I mean, looking back, when they start to ask all these questions, they're like, yeah, you know what? That did kind of happen to me a long time ago. Maybe I had it then, just didn't know what it was.
Right, you just kind of thought it was you. Oh man, I'm not like, something's
couldn't
wrong
name
with
the puppy,
me. Yeah, well, something's wrong with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we all just like, oh man, like why am I like, oh, that was dumb, or that was I'm an idiot, or like, oh, blame it on my parents, right? Like, there's a lot of things that you can just tell yourself when you don't have the awareness. That's so interesting. So is there anything that anybody can do to get checked for MS, or like do you just have to wait until like you have like you're blind? I mean, like I hope that like that doesn't have to happen.
No, I mean, so I had a spinal tap. So they take your spinal. Yeah.
Is that with the big needle? Is that like the same type of needle that they do for like the epidurals? Like for
It's worse.
It's worse.
Because I've had 2 epidurals. And,
Yeah,
and I've had a spinal tap. I would take an epidural every day of the week. Yeah. And they actually kind of messed up my spinal tap. So then I had spinal fluid leaking down my spine. I couldn't stand up. It was bad. My whole experience of getting diagnosed is probably worse than anything else. But yeah.
But like, who's going to go sign up for a voluntary spinal tap? Because that sounds awful. So is that the only way to really find out?
No. You can also have an MRI. So I actually have 5 brain lesions. And that is a telltale sign of MS. I mean, that's...
But like, so like... Do they say, oh, go get checked when you're 20, go get checked when you're 30? Is it like that? Or like, how did, like, is there?
I mean, you have to have a lot of symptoms and they all have to kind of align with that. And then you just take the steps. I mean, blood work is one of them. Spinal tap is one of them. MRI is one of them.
What percentage of people have MS?
I have no idea.
They don't know. We don't know. I have no idea. Like,
and it's usually women that have it.
Oh, okay. So it's more of in women than in men. Yeah. That's interesting to know. Well, if people want more information, I'm sure they can just Google multiple sclerosis.
Careful
If you can spell it. What website would you trust for information if people are curious about it?
MS Society.
MS Society.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're not letting that hold you back. I know you got a lot of cool things going. You run this Peel networking group, right? Tell us a little bit about Peel, and then let's get into the book that you wrote.
Yeah. So Peel, we launched actually almost a year ago. So the 21st will be a year that we launched Peel. So it came right after the pandemic. I actually had that on my heart beforehand, started to kind of put it into words, and then the pandemic hit and I was like, okay, we're going to put that on ice for a minute. And it was actually a blessing that the pandemic happened because it really made me think about the audience that I wanted to touch and, exactly what we wanted to do. And it gave us more time to develop. And so we have what we call champions. So we've got 14 champions, which are our volunteers, and they're incredible. And when I first started to develop this, I reached out to them and I said, I'd really love for you to, jump on board with this and help me with everything that we're doing. And I said to each of them, I'm not asking you this because of, what's in your bank account, what kind of car you have, what kind of house you live in, or what you do for a living. To the point that one of my champions is a DJ. And I said, I think you're an excellent DJ. I will never ask you to DJ any of my events. And he kind of looked at me. He was like, okay, why? And I was just like, because that's not why I'm asking you to do this. And I don't want you to think that I'm using you for that, or like, so-and-so DJs, we'll pull him on the team. He'll DJ all of our events.
We're going to get free DJ events.
Right, right. I said, I will recommend you to everybody. I know your skills. You're fantastic. I said, but I'm asking you to be part of this because of your heart. Because of I know how you are. I know, what you're looking for and what you've done in your past. I'm like, it's because of you as a person that I think that you're excellent.
What is so who's Peel for? Like who what do you guys do there? Like who's it for?
Right. So Peel is for anyone who's looking to give back to their community. It's for entrepreneurs, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, anybody who just wants to be associated and helping out with anybody in their community.
So it's more for like entrepreneurs, you would say?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, that's cool. So entrepreneurs of like all shapes, sizes, like new entrepreneurs, old entrepreneurs.
Yeah, if you just launched a business, if you've been in business for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, because a lot of places, they thought they were doing this, but then maybe their foundation isn't as strong as they thought it was, or the pandemic made them say, this isn't working. Or I actually just had a luncheon where someone was in the insurance agency. I'm getting ready to switch to her. I met with her after the luncheon, and then she sent me an email and said, here's everything, but I just want to let you know, I just gave my 2 weeks. I'm getting out of this industry altogether. And I was like, hang on, like I'm just about to switch to you. What happened? And she was like, actually, it's because of you that I'm switching out of the industry. And I said, what happened? And she said, at the end of every one of my luncheons, I always like read something that's kind of inspiring.
Yeah.
And then I give like my, little spiel at the end after that. And she said, what you read about, like, it's never too late to get out of what you're doing if you don't love it and jump into something else. You're never too old. It's never too late, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, that really hit me. She's like, this isn't my passion. She's like, I love it. I love who I work for, but this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. She's like, so I bit the bullet. She's like, I give my 2 weeks and I'm out. I was like,
that's what I love about Gary Vee. Gary Vee always talks about it. He's like, just do what you love. There's so many things, you can make $500,000 a year, but if you hate it, you're better off doing something that makes $60,000 a year and love it.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people are like, no, what are you going to do? And I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, like you can go home, put your head on that pillow and wake up excited every morning to get out of bed. I know you wake up excited every morning to get out of bed. I know I wake up excited every morning to get out of bed. What do you guys, so how is PO different than, let's just say, because me and you've been in a lot of networking events. How is PO different than like a chamber of commerce? Like, what do you guys do that's different or like more specialized?
So we really are about our members, but we're really about different charities. So how we started this off was every quarter we have a different charity. And what I noticed when I went to networking events was, I'd sign up and I'd get this little thing saying, hey, by the way, bring clothes, we're donating here, or bring food, we're donating there, which is great. But what I saw was that they weren't really investing in those charities. They weren't reaching out to them beforehand and finding out exactly like, hey, what do you need help with? What kind of clothes do you need? What kind of food do you need? What else do you need? It was like a one and done. So what we started to do was, again, it's every quarter. So before we even announce who that charity is or anything else about them, we meet with them, either Zoom or we go in person or we have a conversation, and we have a little committee that is dedicated to them, part of our champions. And we say, what is it that you need? Okay, you need clothes. What kind of clothes? Because some of these places that clothes were being donated, you're actually, giving them another task because they don't need any clothes. And people are donating, and they're like, yeah, we don't need this. So then they're not only are they shorthanded, but now they have more stuff to do. So we find out, do you need clothes? If it's a no. And they need boots, then we're collecting boots. If they need food, what kind of food? Or if they say, no, we don't need this, we're having an abundance, can you actually take that and put it somewhere? Or if they have an event, then we'll go and volunteer for their event, do the registration table, we'll help set up beforehand, help.
The champions do that along with the members. It's kind of like a group of this. So the champions are there to kind of support the group and kind of help with organizing the charity stuff. The members kind of show up to the quarterly events and then also can volunteer.
Members show up everywhere.
Right, yeah. But they show up to the quarterly events. They also can come and help do these volunteer stuff. And so the champions and the members really work together. The champions just serve probably a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah, so we are like building the structure for the charities, and then everyone else can just help however they want. So we're just, giving out, hey, listen, here's the opportunities that you have to volunteer. Because a lot of people don't know, like, hey, I'd like to volunteer for that group, but I don't know how. So we're showing them how. We do all the legwork. Here's an event. We have a table of 10. Would you like to come? And a lot of people are like, yeah, you know what? I didn't know how to get tickets. I don't know how to do this. I don't have time to do this. I'm building my own business, but I want to get involved. And then kind of gives them a taste of all these charities, but not just once. So like, again, quarterly. So we've got all these luncheons every single month. We've got mixers.
So you have luncheons every month. So it's not just a quarterly event. You're having a luncheon every month. And that's where all the members come. The champions are there.
And then we also have the charities there. So we have a platform, right? We have a voice.
All the charities are like just like the one
at a time.
One at a time to kind of pitch their like charity, right? So that way we can get to know them, right?
Yeah. So if you hear from a charity just one time, it's like, oh, okay. And then you forget. But multiple times, as you know.
Yeah. They got to hear it 7 times, right? Yeah.
So we keep having the charities come to all the luncheons, the men's luncheons, the ladies' luncheons, the mixers. If we've got a bigger event, we bring them. And they have different people come, so they're not taxed out. And they come and we give them 5 minutes and discuss their charity. This is who they are. This is where they're going. This is the needs that they have.
That's awesome.
So that everybody keeps hearing about them and keeps hearing about them. And at the end of the year, we have our really big event, which is called our Grateful Gathering, and all the charities that we
Grateful. Did you hear that? Grateful. Jerry Garcia. Go ahead.
So we bring all of them together, and they have tables and they have whatever else, all their marketing. And so that's our big give back to them. And on the monitors, all of our members get to say something they were grateful for the year. And it's just, big, grateful event.
How interesting is it that Cody, our videographer, is wearing a shirt that says "Grateful" on it? Right? Yep. That's from Gary V's V Friends, Grateful. So that's so awesome. Yeah. Thank you for all that hard work that you do.
You know what? It's really not.
I know. It's
many hands put together.
Yeah, you love getting up out of bed every day and organizing it. What's the biggest thing that you need right now? More champions, more members, more charities? Like what's the problem you're trying to solve like this quarter?
So our charities, we've got them down. And in fact, we found last year that we had so many people coming to us saying, hey, I have something going on, that we added monthly organizations that we're helping, and we call them our SAS, our Spontaneous Acts of Service. Spontaneous Acts of Service. Wow. So every month we have an extra charity that we're helping, that they have something that specific month. So they come in and during our luncheons, and we give them a couple minutes as well to speak. And then we have speakers so that we're giving back to our members, so they're getting something educational.
Some business advice, some ways to grow their business, how to hire, how to market, how to sell, how to operate, accounting, finance, all the cool stuff in business that you want to learn to get better.
And then, as you know, we love marketing, right?
Yeah.
So then we added on 5 partners in marketing and media to help with our members, because a lot of our members were saying, hey, you know what? I'd like to run an ad somewhere, or I want a billboard somewhere. So we brought all those partners on to help with our members and give them discounted peel rates, to help with them. So, yeah. So,
cool.
Really, we're building that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Just wait till the cruise next year.
The what?
The cruise.
What kind of cruise?
We're going to do a peel kickoff.
On the Gateway Clipper, or are we going to go to Aruba?
A big one.
So like down in the Caribbean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to get on the Clipper.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're not going to be too yinzer.
Yeah. No. But just wait, we're having an 80s prom, because we have the 4 pillars of Peel. So we have our personal and professional development and achievement, our playful purpose, because I always say, if you're not having fun, what's the point of what you're doing? And then we have our, our grateful. So, yeah. So our philanthropic endeavors was the last one. So, but we have our 80s prom in September. So that's our playful purpose. We're going to have
80s prom. Tuxedos haven't changed that much. So, the girls' dresses, I guess, will change, right?
Tuxedos.
Well, we could wear the Dumb and Dumber ones. Yeah, you're right. Well, all right, so tell me about this book that you got coming out.
Mm-hmm. The book was really fun, actually. So it's a toast to motherhood, the good, the bad, and hilarious. Because I felt that as I was raising my kids, there was a lot of different kind of moms. Mm-hmm. There was the moms that were perfect, which isn't real.
Yeah.
And there was the moms that were, I don't know if I can swear.
Yeah.
They're kind of a shit show.
Yeah.
That's real.
I just want you to be real.
That's real. No moms have it figured out. But the ones that are real, that are open and tell you the real stories, those are the moms that benefit everybody.
That feels like you could have a podcast called Toast to Motherhood Podcast. Mm-hmm. And that's how you could be able to promote the book. You could tell stories of motherhood. Mm-hmm. I just had that vision go off in my head. I was thinking because there's so many, especially in Pittsburgh, man, there's a lot of moms that'll just tell it it is,
Absolutely. Because moms in Pittsburgh are real.
And that's funny, right? And you learn through funny, we call it the edutainment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can kind of educate and entertain people. So what kind of, how thick is the book? Is there pictures? Is it what kind of a book is it?
Well, it started off really thin. And then the more moms that I started to be associated with would start telling me stories. And I was like, oh, you got to be in the book.
Got to put that story in.
Yes.
So is it a compilation of short stories?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you give your little 2 cents at the end of each story?
Yeah. So my 2 cents.
You probably have 3 cents.
Yeah.
You probably have 3 cents, but
it's peppered through the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's I've been there. So I don't engage too much because I really want it to be about the other moms.
Yeah, of course.
I'm really putting them.
Do you have any of your own stories of motherhood in there? Mm-hmm. Do you got any stories from your mom in there? Mm-mm. No? Mm-mm. All right. just checking. You never know. Well, you got the big one, though. You got the big one you mentioned at the beginning. Mm-hmm. That's a story. Mm-hmm. That's a good story.
Yeah.
When's the book come out?
So, we keep pushing it because I just keep getting all these new stories.
You need a deadline, Kelly Frost.
I know.
Come on, you worked for the newspaper before. You got to have a deadline.
Well, so I wanted to wait now until my daughter turned 18.
Okay.
So she's 18 in July. So I actually have another client who has a book coming out. So once his book's out, because I don't want to ever.
You don't want to double promote. You guys going to help each other. Mm-hmm. So is it going to be on Amazon? Is it going to be the whole shebang? You're going to have paper? Is it paperback, hardback?
It's going to be paperback.
Okay, and it's going.
It actually might end up being a trilogy.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
that's
that's
all
what
right.
we're looking at
That's
now.
fine. We'll just do one at a time and just see how it plays out. So that's cool. Where can they get more information on that?
So it's on my website, and it's
Is that
usually
kellyfrost.com or
it's Frost Executive Services.
Frost. We'll put that in the show notes. So that's good.
Cool.
Let's see. What else can I ask you? What's the future look like? Okay, so what do you want to be doing over the next 10 years? Like, what's your 10-year goal? Like, what is really that big? Because I know you have lots of visions. So where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years.
Yeah.
You know what? I haven't traveled a lot.
Okay.
And I have been doing these girls' weekends. And like I said, I'm doing this kickoff. I would love to start helping people, reach their dreams as far as, I want Peel to just keep growing as it is, but I want people to be able to grow with it and travel a lot because I really feel like travel changes you. I've met so many people that say, you know what, I've never gone here and I went there and I realized I would like to be doing this with my life.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when people go away, they come back with
recharged.
Yes, and visions.
Oh yeah. You see me, I travel all the time. Like I mean, it's like it works. It's real.
Yeah. And so many people become just so complacent when they stay in one spot. And, they're in Pittsburgh. And
There's some people that haven't crossed a river.
No.
Do you know that?
I know.
Do you know when I started out in Monongahela, I used to have customers down there that never been to Pittsburgh. They never been to like the stadiums. They never been to, I ain't going up there. I ain't dealing all that. And I'm like, and then I have customers in the North Hills. They won't do business with my company in the South Hills because like we're on the other side of the river. I'm like, what?
It doesn't make sense.
Like we'll drive anywhere to help you. Like it's not that big a deal.
So I was actually just in a book and I wrote a chapter and part of it was about my experience traveling to Paris. And I said, that was 2015 when I did that. And like, almost as if I found myself. And
Did you go by yourself?
No. I went with Darius.
Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah. Darius Chisholm. Yeah. The famous Pittsburgh newscaster.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, she had a purpose to go.
Yeah.
And I made a purpose for me to go. And I was by myself in Paris, and growing up, my parents were almost afraid to go downtown. And I said, they made downtown seem like
scary.
A scene from Batman. I said, I kept waiting for like the Joker.
Gotham.
Yes, I thought the Joker was going to chase us down an alley and kill us. Like that's how I felt downtown was. So I was fearful for a long time. And I said, that was like my mom's like, neurotic whatever.
But you also probably watched Batman in 1992 with Michael Keaton and the Joker, so that probably helped too. So let's not blame it all on mom. Let's not blame it all on mom and dad. But like, yeah, you watch some movies too that can spin that. Because I will say though that city life now is so much different than you're right. I had the same thoughts. I grew up in Canton. Cleveland's a bad place, right? Like, oh my gosh, like we can't go there. I mean, I'm like, what? Like, no, like the cities that I know, they're not like that. But
like even that stems so far, even when I was with the dead. Like, so when we traveled, the bus broke down at one point and, we were at a couple's house and they said, if you guys want to call home, go ahead. So I called home and my dad's comment to me was, have you been abducted?
wow.
Like that was his comment. I was like, no, we're cool. Like there's a whole bunch of us here. And he was like, cough if you've been abducted. I was like, no, really, we're fine. Like, the bus is here. We're all cool. Like, we're doing what we're doing. But that's like the mentality. So I want people to just be able to be themselves.
That's awesome. So you basically want to like set up travel destinations, maybe do retreats with people, the members, and like do things like that.
Because when you get people out of their element, you get them out of their shells.
And they can be more authentic, which can lead to more vulnerability, which can lead to more open and honest conversations, which can lead to transformation.
And I love to plan events. I mean, at my core, I'm an event planner.
Oh, yeah, you are.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. I ask every guest before we wrap the show up 5 questions. There's nobody left on planet Earth. You're completely by yourself. We're going to send you to an island, right? You can take one book with you. What book is it going to be?
Oh, man. One book.
One book. That's it. You got one book. You got to go.
I don't know. I mean, my favorite movie has always been Gone with the Wind.
That's the second question. Give me the book. What book do you want?
That's a book.
So you want the book Gone with the Wind?
I mean, honestly.
All right, that's fine. Take the book Gone with the Wind. Then what movie are you going to take with you?
Movie. I mean,
Something you can watch. Something you can watch up. No, it's not a tough question.
It is.
What just popped in your head?
Well, I just said the book, so that's the movie that's going to be in my head. But
Hey, but what movie you could watch over and over again?
Man, this isn't fair. You could ask these questions ahead of time.
No, I don't. No, come on. Just
I don't know.
like there's no right or wrong
I'm
answer.
like such a movie person.
All right, just pick the one that you only can take one. Which one you taking with you? Your house is burning down. You got all your movies. What movie you can take with you? I don't know how else they'll say it. Like,
I'm gonna have to go like Wedding Crashers.
all right, that's a great one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so you're allowed to put one restaurant on your island. What restaurant can you go to? What restaurant do you want on your island?
One restaurant. I like Eddie V's.
Eddie V's. All right, that's cool. All right, you're allowed to take one trip. You can go anywhere in the world. It could be somewhere you've been that you know that for sure you want to go back, or it could be somewhere you've never been. Where do you want to go for a week?
I like Aruba.
Aruba. Now, weird, I mentioned Aruba earlier in the show. All right, and then last question. You can spend 24 hours with one person to kind of pick their brain. It could be somebody famous. It could be somebody that you know. It could be somebody that you wanted to talk to. Like, what person would you want to spend 24 hours with to pick their brain?
I don't like narrowing things down like this.
It's okay, but you only have to take one person. You get one phone a friend. Who is it going to be? Anybody. It could be anybody. It could be somebody from 1,000 years ago. It could be somebody that's famous. It could be somebody that you know. It could be somebody that you look up to. It could be anybody.
It's got to be somebody that you want to talk to.
Yeah, who? 24 hours. That's all you get.
How about like JFK?
All right. Why?
Because I think he didn't get enough time to say enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you know he's got some stories. That family's got some stories.
Well, I kind of like Marilyn Monroe, so I want to hear a lot of dirt.
All right. Well, it was awesome having you on the show. I love everything you do for the city of Pittsburgh. I hope that you get to achieve that dream of taking everyone in the burg to wherever they want to go, travel the world.
I'm sure you'll be on that guest list.
I think that would be cool. Yeah, we could definitely have some fun. That's for sure. Stay tuned for other episodes. We drop podcasts every Friday. And what's the best place to follow you at? Facebook, Instagram? Like, where's the best place?
Yeah, I mean, all that. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram.
We'll put all
LinkedIn.
that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.